stopped up here on the highway. We're still about 2 miles from the river, but this is where they've got the historical markers. Now this is the marker for Trader's Hill, which was Fort Alert, is what they called it at some point in time. It says about 2 miles east on this road is the site of Fort Alert, usually called Trader's Hill. Established in the 18th century, actually it was 1793 if I remember correctly, and defended by a stockade garrisoned by the U.S. troops. Trader's Hill was a refuge for settlers during the Indian Wars. At the head of navigation on the St. Mary's River. It was also one of the most important trading centers in the southeast. In 1854, it became the county site, and actually that should be county seat, of Charlton County, and served in this capacity until 1901. The Methodist Church on the site of the old town is one of the oldest in this county, and in the cemetery adjacent are buried many of the pioneers of this region. I have to apologize for the little bit of traffic up here on this road. The other one over there, that's about the Masonic Lodge, but this one here is the oldest industry in Charleston, which imagine that was a sawmill. This mill pond marks the site of Major Archibald Clark sawmill, the oldest industry in what is now Charlton County, built about 1802. This mill was upright saws, was operated by water power, and the lumber shipped down the St. Mary's River. Major Clark was collector of the port in St. Mary's, and during the War of 1812 refused the demand of the British to turn over to all of them government funds. In reprisal, British forces ascended the St. Mary's to burn Major Clark's mill. They were turned back by Captain William Cone with 28 men, and the mill was saved to operate for many years until supplanted by stream mills. So these are state of Georgia markers that are up here. So we're going to get off this main highway up here, and we're going to go back down here, and we're going to see Trader's Hill. Well, we're finally down here at Trader's Hill, down at the landing. They got a little recreational area here, campground right up the road. But this was the landing at Trader's Hill. Now this area on both sides of the river, that's Florida, across the creek, or the river, over there, it's not far. But that river out there is fairly deep. But anyway, this area has been inhabited since before the Revolution, and scattered families all over the place on both sides of the river. And after the Revolution, or actually prior to the Revolution, the Tracy family had a ferry here, and once the United States was formed, Washington and Jefferson had give permission to the states to where they were able to form their own militia groups, and they could actually draft anybody from 18 years old to 45 years old to be in the militia if it was needed. But anyway, a man named Robert Seagrove had a trading post down here. Now, the trading post down here done a lot of business. They shipped lumber and other goods, cotton, and other commodities from this part of the country out of here. But Robert Seagrove was the Indian agent here, but he also had a trading post. Now, in March of 1793, Indians come down here and they robbed the store. They killed the clerk that was working for Robert Seagrove. His name was John Fleming. There was also a man doing business at the store named Daniel Moffat. They killed him as well. And it was claimed that the Indians made off with 2,000 pounds sterling worth of goods from the trading post. Now, I don't know how accurate that is, because 2,000 pounds sterling was a ton of money. In England at that time, 2,000 pounds sterling was well over $1 million. In today's value, maybe even $2 million. So that's a lot of stuff. So I think maybe that number may be inflated a little bit. I don't know. But anyway, another unnamed person, I don't know who he was also murdered here by the Creek Indians. Now, Seagrove had been trying to get an allotment of grain from the government to help the Indians out, but I don't know whether he ever got that allotment or not. But anyway, you had friendly Indians and you had hostiles. The ones that were in this particular incident or whatever, they were definitely hostile Indians. Now, after they done the raid on the store, they left and they went to another area not far from here and killed, murdered, mutilated 4 other people, and at a homestead not far from here, 4 men and 1 woman. And like I say, they actually mutilated the bodies. It was a pretty bizarre sight. So anyway, they got a posse, I guess you might call it, together. Robert Seagrove got 23 men, and they went after the Indians, and they chased them well over 40 miles before they finally give up and come back. When they got back, they found out that a woman named Gray and her 2 children were molested by the Indians. They weren't killed by them, but they were also molested by the Indians. But anyway, that incident became known as the Massacred Traders Hill. So after this happened, Seagrove once again wrote the government, and they established a fort not far up the road here, and it was called Fort Alert. And it was a stockade type fort, and from that point on, of course, we had 3 Seminole wars after that, and anytime there was a threat, people from both sides, Florida and the Georgia side both, could come to the fort and be protected. But this was the main trading area for this area for a lot of years, up until probably the early 1900s. Like I say, there was a ferry that went across here somewhere. I'm not sure exactly where it was at, but there was a ferry that went across the river. Now, if you go down to the west, which is down in that direction, you got Red Bluff. It is between here and St. George and Crackertown. That used to be the swimming hole. But Traders Hill was a gathering place for people. It was where all the trading took place, and it's where, like I say, the people come to get away from any danger that might be in the area. So today it's very peaceful down in here, but there were times when this was a very savage land, and a lot of atrocities took place. I know over on the Florida side, over on the River Road, over there was all, my grandma always used to tell a story about the White House on the hill, where a family was massacred by the Seminoles, Seminoles were Creeks. But she always said that there was a family that was massacred over on the River Road over there. Now, when I was younger, and we used to come up here, that old house was still there. Today it is long gone. There's nothing left. Kind of like down here is a ghost town. Only thing left is the river and the land is the only thing that's left. Cemetery is right down the road. We're going to go visit it in a few minutes. And a lot of the early settlers in this area, actually on both sides of the river, are buried there in that cemetery. But this is about as far as you can get coming from now to the east. This river, St. Mary's, goes all the way out to the Atlantic Ocean, goes out to Cumberland. And it goes all the way out to the Atlantic Ocean. Now, the ships would come into St. Mary's and Fernandina, and you couldn't get a big ship up in here, but you could get a good-sized boat. And they used barges as well to ship the timber out of here. This was a long time before the railroads. And that's how they got the timber out of here, was they'd bring barges and one thing and another up in here, and they'd pull the timber out. There was also a big sawmill up here, which you seen on the plaque earlier, the big sawmill. A lot of lumber come out of here. But anyway, this is about as far as you could get up the St. Mary's without running a boat aground. I'm going to walk down to the dock for just a minute and you can get a better look back to the west, back towards Red Bluff. Now, the only way you can see Red Bluff now is from the river. Once again, when I was a kid, there was an old road that you could actually drive down to Red Bluff, but that's no longer there. It's all private property, and you can no longer see Red Bluff. They've got a really nice little docking facility. Like I say, it's been busy down here for the last 45 minutes or an hour. 3 or 4 boats have come out since I got here. I was waiting for them to go out. Now, if you'll notice, this is a floating dock. Now, the St. Mary's River has a tendency to flood at times, and you can see the bank across there. Now, from where the river level is now to the top of that little bluff right there is probably about 10 feet. If you look over here on the parking lot, I've seen water up as far as the top of that little hill going north there, and over the top of that 10-foot bluff on the Florida side. It does have a tendency to flood at times. A lot of people have built houses down close to the water and had them flooded out. So now a lot of them build them on stilts now because of the propensity to flood down here. We hadn't had one in quite a while. It's been a few years since the St. Mary's flooded, but it will do it. So anyway, this is the side of Traders Hill and the massacre that took place here in 1793. A lot of history in this place. Like I say, if the trees could talk, they'd have a lot of stories to tell. So, I think I'm going to run different videos on all this stuff today instead of running them all together. Some people don't want to watch the cemetery stuff. So, once again, as we're looking out across the beautiful St. Mary's River, I'm going to thank you very much once again for visiting the channel. Please like and subscribe. Comment. Appreciate y'all, and God bless you.